Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode we're speaking about the question: how secure is your watch strap? How easy or how hard is it to lose your watch due to a malfunction of the strap, the clasp or the spring bars? Very important topic, but I don't want to produce a clickbait here. It is of course not daily occurrence that somebody loses his or her watch due to a malfunction of the strap. Not daily occurrence, but it do happen from time to time, and then it's a very annoying and very hard scenario. I mean, imagine you have a watch on the wrist and you've saved for that thing several years or months, and now it's gone and you have to buy it again. This is hell on earth. Or you have a vintage watch you cannot replace like that, or you have a watch with a high emotional value. This is again a very, very nasty scenario, losing that thing just because a spring bar breaks or something goes wrong with the strap. And so in this video I'd like to share my experience with straps as a strap seller and as a strap maker. And in preparation to make my own straps, I've examined a lot of pieces from other manufacturers. I cut them literally in half to find out how thick are the layers, what's the basic construction, how secure is the entire thing, what's the padding, what's everything really. And so I'd like to share my experience and my insights with you. And after this video you will be not 100% safe, because we are in real life here and there's nothing 100%, but it will be very unlikely that after watching this video you will lose your watch because there's something wrong with the strap. And I want to show you exactly what I mean. And so let's go into my little workshop, and there I can show you everything, what's inside a strap, what's on the outside, and I will explain the major points to keep in mind, to focus on, so that your watch strap is secure. Let's do it. Alright, and here we are in the workshop, and now let's start with the basics, with the construction of a strap. What is a strap? What are the main elements here? And the main elements are the outer leather, or the top leather, looks like this. Then we have a lining, and normally we have some sort of padding, which I will not show you now for clarity, because these are the most important parts. Then we have a clasp, we have spring bars. This is our strap. And now we have the first misconception. Many people think when you have a very substantial and a very thick strap, like this one here, made by Festina, and this compared to another strap here, for example, where you can see this is very thin. And then people think this is more robust than this. Can be. When you want to wear your strap until the bitter end and you have cracks all over the thing, then of course this is more substantial, this is more secure then. But most people don't wear these straps so long, and so it doesn't matter so much if the thing is thin or thick. Thickness of a strap or padding is here more for the visual appearance, because it makes this nice curve and you have a bit more reflection going on than on flat straps. But the important part here really is the loop, and I don't mean the magnifier, I mean this loop, this folded over loop that keeps the spring bar. And when you compare a very thin strap with a thick strap, then you may see that the substantiality of the loop is pretty much the same. And this is the important part, okay? So you cannot say this is more secure than that. You have to check the material here. And the next misconception is that this can break, or that this can open up, and so you lose your watch by a malfunction of the glue, basically. This is not so much the case, because when you see our main ingredients of the strap, then we have the top material and the lining. And this you see here, I've made this as a dummy just for this explanation. This will be glued that way. Then you have here a very strong bond, and then the lining comes on top of the thing, right? And now we have two very solid glue spots that keeps the thing together. And so it's not very likely that this comes loose. And especially when you see straps like this with the stitching, there's no way that this thing can loosen up or break. And the material here, you see, is very substantial leather. So bottom line, thick strap is more for the visual. This thing cannot loosen up because it's fixed with two glue points or very often a stitching. And the material here is strong enough to hold your watch secure, so this leather here will not break so easy. I've never seen it, to be honest, with a quality strap. Okay, and now let's go to our next point, and this is the quick release spring bar. And I think we all like them pretty much. You have that handy lever so that you can pull off or you can install the strap without any form of tools. This is very nice. For example, here you have this Presidus watch with the same mechanism. This is pretty handy. The problem is that you have a hole in your strap. You have a slit in your strap. And this is exactly the point here where the material is under stress. Basic logic, when you see a piece of leather like this spare part here and you bend it, you see what happens. You really see that the material there is under a lot of stress, and now you make a hole in that area, and then sweat can enter, moisture can enter, rain can enter. And so I'm not saying that these straps will fall off your arm after a couple of weeks or months, but this will be the spot where the first damage occurs, okay? I mean, it's basic logic. You have really a hole in your strap. Okay, and our next topic is spring bars. They come in different sizes between, let's say, 1 millimeter and 2.5 millimeters. And that's important because you need the spring bar that fits your watch. If you imagine a lug of a watch. Now, we'll do this with large strokes so that you can see everything. There's your lug. Here is the hole for the pin of the spring bar, because the spring bar always looks something like this. Then you have here often a little ring, and that's it, okay? And this thing should actually fit in there neatly. Let me give it a bit of shading. Here's the metal part. Here's the metal part. That thing should fit in there just nicely, okay? Because the problem is when you have something like this. Again, you have a lug. And now the pin is tiny, like this. Tiny pin, tiny spring bar. Then you have always this rattling action here in this hole, which can weaken the material here. This is just not perfect, this scenario, okay? It's not a huge risk, but it can get worse when you have the opposite scenario. Then you have another lug. And now you have a vintage watch, like this one here. I'm wearing my Elgin 50s Caseback #1 strap, and here it works, but sometimes on vintage watches you have smaller holes here. And then you have a modern strap, for example, with a massive pin, like this. Right, you get the idea. What happens now is that this pin goes a smidgen into the hole, but not the entire distance. See that? This is, of course, a problem, because you hear that sound when it snaps in, but it snaps only in a tiny bit. So always make sure that this pin is not too thin, and it should fit in neatly into the entire length of the hole, and you can control this with this little ring. Most spring bars have 1 or 2 rings, and there you can see if it's in the hole or not. And you can check it out with a loupe, okay? So when you have a vintage watch and you see there's something fishy and you think, wow, this looks risky, then check it out with a loupe. You must see your lug, and the ring of the spring bar is then on top, and the rest is invisible. It's in the metal, okay? So this is the reason why it's so important to choose the right spring bar for the right strap and the right watch. And wrong spring bars you often see when somebody is flipping watches and he or she is not really well equipped with straps and spring bars. And then you have something, for example, you have a very heavy watch, like this Smith's Transglobal. Relatively heavy watch, and you have a substantial strap. This is the Cordovan strap by Caseback Watches, my little Cordovan edition. Substantial straps. And now imagine somebody equips this watch with a very fine spring bar. This is just not perfect. Then you have sort of weight here on the watch head. You have a substantial strap, and you have tiny elements that keep it in place. This is, every engineer would say, if it doesn't look right, it is not right, okay? And this is exactly the case here. And so if you have a watch from eBay or a similar place, just give it a quick examination if the spring bar fits the size of the holes here and fits the weight of the watch. And important to know is also everything I've said here about spring bars, these spring bars applies to the clasp as well, because of course you have a spring bar inside. And when somebody is getting creative and constructs something that doesn't fit, then you should change that. A massive clasp like this should have a substantial spring bar that really neatly goes into these holes on both sides, okay? This is very important. And then the risk is very limited because the rest is solid. And even if you have something smaller, if you have a smaller clasp like this, don't worry about this pin. I've never seen it that this pin fails. And so I think the risk on this side, when the proper spring bar is installed, is very, very limited. Okay, let's go to the next risk. This you see fairly often. When somebody is in need of a strap for a, let's say, 19mm lug width, and then he or she uses an 18mm strap. And then you have a bit of a gap. Here you see that old Vostok, and you see there is a gap. This strap here needs 1mm more for a nice fit, and it doesn't have that fit. I mean, here you could tolerate it, but straps have the tendency to become narrower over time, especially when they're not really substantial. And for example, then you have here a 19mm lug width, a 18mm strap, but the 18mm are in theory, in fact, is that thing 17mm, and then you have a 2mm gap here. And the problem is just you can get stuck on something with that. Something goes between the metal and the leather and loosens your pin, and then the watch is gone. And so this is a severe risk. You should always check that the lug width and the strap are in, let's say, basic correspondence, okay? So 20mm lug width, 20mm strap. And especially high quality straps have very tiny tolerances, but when you have something more affordable, then it comes with larger tolerances. And again, time will diminish the width of your straps. So you should control this from time to time if this works. Okay, next point, rubber straps. Rubber straps are very different from leather straps, because here you really have the problem sometimes that this part can break. I've seen it, that you have here, especially when they come with a quick release mechanism, sometimes with cheaper strap. This is not a cheap strap, this is really okay strap. I don't want to bash their company. I've seen it with other models. But this material definitely can break there much quicker than leather. And so if you have a nice rubber straps, and I enjoy them pretty much in the summer, I must say, but when you have them, it's not a big deal to check from time to time if this section here is still intact, okay? Because when you have a damage here with leather will hold together with the last fiber. And you really can demonstrate this when you cut through material here like that. And then you have this tiny bit of material left. You will have a hard time to damage it. This will be much easier with rubber. And this is especially risky when you have a very large and heavy watch, like some Omega dive watches. When you put them on a cheap rubber strap, aftermarket cheap rubber strap that is relatively thin, then you definitely have a risk of a severe damage there. And so if you have a heavy dive watch, then do not pair it with a cheap rubber strap. I mean, a cheap rubber strap goes wholesale for $1, $2, $3, and retail you can buy them for 10. And I think it's not a problem then to spend 20 on a really, really good rubber strap, okay? Last advice here is don't exaggerate. Keep these points in mind, and then you are fairly safe. Do not invent the ultimate spring bar made out of a very exotic material that never fails, because engineers know this term, the predetermined breaking point. If something mechanical or during an accident is pulling your watch away from you, then the spring bar should break, or the bracelet, or something else, or the strap. Something should break, because you don't want to risk a severe injury only because somebody has invented the last spring bar that can take it all, but yeah, at a high cost. And so do not exaggerate. Bear these points I've laid out here in mind, and then you're fairly safe. Okay, welcome back. I hope you had some insights and I hope you feel more secure now while sporting an expensive watch on a strap. And if you're still in need of a strap, then please check out casebackwatches.com. There you'll find everything I make myself or I buy from little companies here and there in Germany. All right, and that's it for this episode. Thank you very much and until next time.